Ever wondered how you get tricked into sharing information on the internet? In other words, obscure internet tactics. Well, our next presenter provides information into the nature of dark patterns versus digital inclusion. Dr. Jasmine McNealy is an attorney, a technologist, an internationally recognized scholar whose research is interdisciplinary, centered on the intersection of media, technology, policy, and law. Of particular focus of hers are the areas of privacy, surveillance, and data governance, and the impacts on marginalized and vulnerable communities. She is a policy fellow with the Public Interest Technology University Network, a tenured professor at the University of Florida, and a faculty associate at the Berkman Klein Center of Internet and Society at Harvard University. Please give a warm welcome for Dr. Jasmine McNealy.
Good morning, everyone. How many of you have your phones out? Great, because we're going to use them in a second. So yes, my name is Jasmine McNealy. I'm at UF, and my critical areas of research is what are the interactions between people and technology? And then what are the implications, or what does law and policy need to do to lessen, to mitigate, to stop harm? The interactions that we have on the internet mean something. Like at one time, perhaps they were just low stakes, right? Any of you on like tripod.com, Prodigy, OG AOL, right? The buffering sound, you know that, right? Low stakes. But now the stakes are really high. If any of you listen to De La Soul, I would say the stakes is high, right? But stakes are really high for all of us in this room, and also for those who are just learning about technology, encountering technology in all of the ways that we need technology. And as we think about bringing broadband to all, we think about infrastructure. I want to let you know that this infrastructure can also be infrastructure for deception. It can be used in ways that deceive people. So the topic is dark patterns. But dark patterns are really important, I'm going to say business models. But before we get there, so the state of Florida had its digital adoption and use plan, and it had these 5, I would say, pillars or principles that it submitted to the NTIA. It was accepted. And so broadband affordability and availability, online privacy and cybersecurity, online accessibility, device availability and affordability, and digital literacy. So scaffolding these huge infrastructure projects along with partnering with important community organizations to both distribute and to research and to connect with people who are just getting online or having access to stronger internet or stronger broadband, and bringing them digital literacy skills. This is really a great plan for any state. So Florida, this is Florida, but all of the states had this opportunity to submit a plan. Most of them did. I would say all of them did, including like DC, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and everyone. Knowing this, though, a plan to get almost everyone online is a boon. Like, never allow like a good project to get in the way of a scam or a set of scams, a way of doing scams. And I'm not saying that dark patterns are a result of a plan like this. I'm saying that dark patterns can be amplified. The harms of dark patterns can be amplified because we know that this is good. This is a public interest good to get people online, connected, able to use the internet. So what is a dark pattern? What am I talking about? Dark patterns are use designs. They are ways that not just corporations, but all kinds of organizations design portions of their sites, portions of their apps in ways that get people to give up something of value that they wouldn't otherwise, but for that dark pattern, but for that design. Now, these are on a spectrum, right, to annoying to very harmful, like lose money, right? We're concerned about that, lose money. But also, they're about getting that thing of value. And the thing of value can be your personal data. It can be your time. It can be your attention. How many of you are used to infinite scroll? Any of you go on Instagram and you're just like, That is a dark pattern. Some people call it attention damaging patterns or designs. You know, as a professor, I understand the attention damaging part of those kinds of designs. So time, attention, data, that's the thing of value. Why? Because an organization, I'm not just going to say a corporation, any organization, corporate, civil society, government, can collect data, personal data or data related to how people use their site, which is valuable, and can offer a way to be processed and then make inferences or predictions about people. What you might like. How can I better sell you this? What does it say about the people who visit our site? How can we monetize this? How can we get value from the data? Now, some people will say, okay, well, you know, for a long time, organizations have wanted to better serve their constituents. Absolutely. The question is, what are the boundaries of being able to better serve, but also of not engaging in either gray areas of legality or just plain illegal kind of tactics? So I want to show you a couple of examples, and then I'll ask you to find some yourself. So this is not a made-up one. This is an actual design of a dark pattern. This is Oracle's apiary system, so you're on, and you've seen cookie notices, right? We're all used to them. Many of the times we just click off because we don't want to be bothered with that. But if you look at the design of this, so required cookies is at the top, and advertising cookies are at the bottom, but how do we really process this design? Usually we would say down is lowest, right? They've transposed that. So no, you're going counter to what you would usually think about the amount of information or kinds of cookies that you would be allowing them to collect data from. So you have to be paying a lot of attention to making these autonomous choices that you can make. You'd want to, most of us would want to just say only required cookies. Except for we're not thinking that way because it's transposed here. This is a dark pattern. This is a way to get you to not pay attention or to deceive you into thinking you're getting one thing and you're actually getting another. Or another way organizations can design dark patterns or deceptive designs is through color. We're used to certain colors. We're used to being able to X out things, and the X out would be like gray or noticeable. We know that we're used to gray on sites being like not chosen, like the choice not to pick. But if we look at this example, this is a, price ticket for an airline, and you made a choice, but when you get to this screen, it says, oh, first class adds an additional price, but if you're not paying attention, you're gonna pay that additional price when you just want the regular price. And look at the no thanks. It is in gray. If you're used to the designs of how sites normally are, you're gonna say, oh, gray, that's not my choice, red is. Red is the thing I'm supposed to be choosing if you're not paying attention. Now, I'm saying if you're not paying attention, but this is more than just attentional. How do we use how people have been socialized on the web and on apps in ways that get them to behave in ways that are beneficial for us. So here's the thing, this is what I want you to do. You have phones or tablets. I want you to navigate to maybe your favorite website, maybe your favorite app. Tell me, can you find a dark pattern? And I will tell you that research has said that 92% of sites and apps can have a dark pattern on it, especially shopping sites. Who knew, right? So I'm gonna give you a few minutes. Please look on and see what you find. Then answer, like, why is it possibly deceptive? What are the possible harms of these designs that we can encounter? Any of you find you go to a website or a app and there was a pop-up? To those of you, what did it say? Yeah, they want you to download the app, or they force you to. You know, if you notice, I don't know if any of you have LinkedIn, but if you try to use LinkedIn with the browser on your phone, after you scroll like once, they're like, don't you want to download our app? That's a dark pattern. That's trying to force you to do something. Any of the other pop-ups? How easy was it for you to get off of the pop-up? It's a little hard. There are a couple of reasons or a couple of ways that's hard, right? Either the X is hard to find to X out of it, or also when you try to X out, it'll say, no, I want to pay full price. No, I don't want this discount, which seems really benign and it's kind of annoying, but there's a word for that. It's called confirm shaming, right? To make you feel bad for trying to X out, which seems so silly, but I said these are on a spectrum. Some people will say, oh, I can't get this off, I can't find the X, let me just give them my email address and go on about my business. But you've given up the thing that you didn't necessarily need to, but for this design. Other more harmful, perhaps, there are actually sites, and the FTC has gone after sites that have put things in your cart that if you're not paying attention, you'll have to pay for. There are other kinds too. A significant one, and one that has drawn such ire that Congress has said we need to step in, has to do with subscriptions. This is called the Roach Motel, right? It's easy to get a subscription. It's so hard to cancel your subscription. Easy to get in, hard or impossible to get out. Why do we care? Florida law now, which is helpful, Florida has passed laws and they've mentioned dark patterns as an issue for both kids and for the rest of us as well. You can't obtain consent through a dark pattern. That's what the law says. And for kids, dark patterns on sites aimed at children, aimed at getting children to give up their personal data is prohibited. Now, here's the thing. Many state laws offer similar things as they're putting out the states are putting out their own like privacy or data protection laws, and that's great. Sometimes these data protection laws only apply to certain kinds of sites. Those kinds of sites that get above a certain threshold of visitors, which doesn't really help everybody all the time. What we really need to think about is the business model. And what does this mean for the newly included? I would say that there's actual research that people who are in the United States, who are just learning English, who are new to technology, are more susceptible to the harms of dark patterns than those who may have a level of digital literacy, right? But we're all susceptible to dark patterns. In fact, researchers said most of us don't recognize dark patterns on this across the spectrum. So why is this important? Because we need to really think about, as we are integrating people into technology and relationships with technology, and when they have to use technology, what are we going to do to provide protection for people who are going to be interacting with technology? No, we don't want them to spend money that they don't want to spend. No, we don't want companies, organizations to get value from the data that people are giving off, even if they don't put their email address in it. We want to really critically think about the impacts of accessibility, but also how organizations are using that new accessibility to benefit themselves. So with that, I want to thank you and totally open to questions. Thank you. Are cookies and preferences always the same? I think how they're used on sites, cookie preferences, they go hand in hand. And so should we take the time to become skilled? It's a good thing. However, I am loath to put the onus on the individual to protect themselves from organizations with so much power. Sometimes we need to use a site. Sometimes if we don't use a site, we're missing out on things. There's something called the autonomy trap, which says, you know, the usual refrain is, if you don't want your data collected, don't use the site, which makes total sense, except we miss out on a lot of the things, the beneficial uses of a site. We know that people can get news and opportunities very quickly on social media, for example. So if we just say, well, we're not going to use that, we are missing sometimes the advantage or the advantages or benefits of being able to get that instantaneous news, how people are circulating information, and those kinds of things. So yes, digital literacy in this kind of way is really good and really important, but I would like to see the onus be put on the organization to change their business models, how they're interacting with us. Yeah, thank you.
I have a question on reselling the data.
Yes.
Because that had been an issue, and I don't know where we are in law with that. And also on the financial services side, where there's so much opportunity to steal our money. Your thoughts on both of those?
Yeah, so depending on which state you are, you have more or less protections if they have a state data protection or privacy law. And what was the first part of the question you asked? Reselling, yeah. So if they're in the state, if there's no do not resell, many organizations sell access to data. Why? It's so valuable. There are predictive value in AI-related systems that are really beneficial. I was actually at a meeting where there were several representatives from different kinds of tech and other organizations, and they said, well, we're just collecting data, not specific, collecting all kinds of data points. And they were like, well, we don't know what we're going to use all of it for yet, but we know that it's valuable, and it's going to have a value, and somebody's going to be able to use it. We could sell access to it, whether those are marketers or other kinds of personalization systems. Insurance is big for this. Like, to see if you're a good risk for whatever, insurance companies love data. You can imagine why. So the question is, should like third parties be able to make up or use or collect a portfolio on you without your permission? Now we can say that data is anonymized, but we also know that research says we only need 2 points of data to re-identify the data. You can tell who somebody is through 2 points of data. Zip code, for example, age. There's other points of data that it's over for you as far as anonymity. This information, this data is valuable. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we know data is money.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. And if they've already collected that data, and we say you cannot use this in this fashion or
Sure.
that fashion, how do we govern that?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Actually, it's interesting because the Federal Trade Commission has the right to force an organization to delete data. They have enforcement power to, or they had at least enforcement power to tell a company, you collected this through unlawful means, through either deception or unfairness, you need to delete it. And they also have the opportunity to force an organization to delete any of the AI models that have been trained using that data too. It's called disgorgement. So there is the possibility of now enforcing that, kind of rough. However, the power is there to do it, and they have done it. They have told organizations. There was a recent case where the FTC connected or linked up, collaborated with the state of California's AG, Attorney General. And they went after this app that was marketed towards kids, 13 and under. It was a texting app, but they were doing some deceptive stuff to get kids' data. And they told them, you have to delete this data. You have to delete it, and you have to give us proof that you deleted it. There is that opportunity. Thank you very much for your time and attention.